Hello everyone, welcome back. So I've got this really damp, dark corner and I don't really get things to grow particularly well in the ground. It's the lowest point of the garden as well, so everything runs this way. And we've got this plum tree here which is doing okay now. It's took a year to get there really, but now it's got itself up and above the fence, it's getting sunlight. And so I've been thinking about what I can grow in this corner that will do the same, you know, that will get high enough to get above the fence and get some sunlight. Now in the height of the summer it isn't a problem, we get sun here, and I have grown potatoes down here before, but in the early spring and early summer it doesn't get much sun, so we need something that puts on a lot of growth, gets really tall and can then get above the shade and get some sunlight. So I'm thinking Jerusalem Artichokes. Now they do have side effects, as everybody knows. They are nicknamed the fartichoke, but I'm sure we can get past that one. And I've never grown them before, so it's always worth a go trying these things, isn't it? So I need to have a bit of a tidy up here, and then what I'm going to do is put them in these pots and part sink these pots into the ground, because the other problem with artichokes, or Jerusalem artichokes, is they're very invasive, and if you just plant them in the ground you may never get rid of them without a lot of digging anyway. So that's the plan. So I'll have a bit of a tidy up, work out where I'm going to put these pots exactly. Probably one, probably one there and one here maybe, and try and fill this fence as well with the building work next door. It could be a nice screen. And I need to drill some holes in these pots as well, because they've got no holes in for drainage, but I'll do that in the shed because I don't want the plastic going into the ground. If I do it in the shed then I can just sweep it up. Right, let's get going. As you can hear, the ground is really wet down there. Although, to be fair, it's pretty wet all over the garden. We've had quite a lot of rain overnight. Plant label. So these pots I bought at a farm shop that we go to, like a farm supply place, and I think they're 60 litre pots, and they were really cheap. I think they were about £6 each. So I thought they'd be perfect for this. That should do. So I think I'm going to put one there. I do need to prune that off the plum tree. And obviously the tree's going to grow over time, but I can just relocate the pot then. And I'm going to put the other one here because I've got a rhubarb here, which I need to be careful I don't stand on because it is starting to shoot now. That grew really well here last year, so that'll kind of fill this corner in and make the best use of it, I hope. So I'm going to bury these, I don't know, 4-6 inches or something, because the other thing with Jerusalem artichokes is because they get so tall they catch the wind, so I don't want the pots blowing over, and we do get hellish winds from that direction behind. And the soil I dig out I'll put in the pot, and I'll mix in a bit of my homemade compost because they do like a lot of goodness in the soil, I believe. They're not really worried what the soil's like, you know, whether it's clay or loam or sand, but they do need a lot of feed. So I'll put some of my homemade compost in, and we'll fill the pot so that it's about, I don't know, 6 inches or so from the top. Then we'll put the tubers in, which I'll show you in a bit, and then we'll fill the pot up to about an inch below the surface, below the rim. I'll just mark where I've got to dig. Okay. Okay, we've got some compost in there now, I think. I'll put it in this other pot. We'll give that a mix up. Okay. Let's get some tubers in there. So I ordered these online from a company called Crocus, and there should be 5 in here, I think. That cardboard will go in the compost. Yeah, Crocus. They were one of the cheapest that I found, and but they're quite expensive, these tubers. What you really want to do is find someone that's got too many, because they multiply like mad apparently. So when you get in the bag, we'll have a look. Okay, and they're in a little bit of compost. There's one of the tubers, and it looks like it's shooting at that end, look, and you can see where that end's been snapped off from, because it would have been a bigger tuber than this. So I think I should have 5, so yeah, I have. That one's shooting as well, look. So I'm going to put 3 in one pot and 2 in the other, and I think I'll put 3 in this one at the back and 2 in that one. So I'm just going to shoot facing upwards, put that in the ground. There's another one with a good shoot on. And that one. These are actually very good, in good condition. They're rock solid. There's no sign of any rot or anything like that. So those 2 I'm going to put to one side. So that's the 3 in the ground, and I'm going to backfill that now with some more of this soil, and I'll do the other pot. So what I'm going to do is dig this one out now and put the soil from here in that one. As you can see, we've got quite a clayey soil, but don't let that discourage you. Clay is actually very fertile. It's just horrible to work with. I'm marking where I've got to dig about 2 inches from the side of the pot, because the pot is tapered, so I need to dig a bigger hole than the actual base of the pot. There's a King Edward from, I don't know, 2 years ago. I'll put these 2 in there. Both got good shoots on. And apparently it's best to plant them about 6 weeks before your last frost date, because it takes them that long to get up and above the ground. And I guess I am about 6 weeks. I think where I live in Shropshire, it's about the 20th of April. We're actually quite late, and if you look at surrounding areas, they're a lot earlier. It's just something about this area, and I think because the surrounding area is quite rural and it's also quite high. I mean, where we live is probably about 150 metres above sea level, so that's those 2 in there. And I think what I'm going to do, I've got some nice fine soil just over there, so I'm going to just finish these pots off with a bit of that, and that'll do. Don't need to label them up, I know exactly what they're going to be. So there we go, 2 pots of Jerusalem Artichokes, sown, planted, and the beauty of these is you're harvesting them through the winter when there isn't a lot else, so we'll find out next winter, this winter. See what they're like. So the last job out here I'm going to do this weekend, and I've done a lot of jobs, is get some broad beans sown directly. And these beds have been topped off with my homemade compost and then some potash on the top. So I'm just going to go through, pull out anything that I don't want in there, and just give it a bit of a flick over with the trowel, and that will be that. Get them in. There's not much in here really that can't stay. God, it's so wet. Everything is so wet. Well, the sun has just come out, so that's nice. I think I'm going to do 2 beds, 2 of these pallet collar beds with broad beans. But what I am going to do is put these sticks in, because at this far end of the bed I want to grow Monge 2 up this netting like I did last year. So I'm just going to put these sticks in for those to get started on. that's that. And what I'll do is I'll start the broad beans sort of here at this distance, about 8 inches from that. I'm going to start in this one because that way's north and that way's south, and as you can see it's catching the sun a bit now. The pallet collar beds at the far end won't get any sun at this time of year. It'll be another couple of months, and when the sun gets higher then they'll get it. So I'm going to start my earlier crops at this end and later crops at that end. And all I'm going to do, these are actually last year's seed. These are Andalusia. So I'm going to put those in to start with. And I'm just going to poke them down about 2 inches, about 6 inches apart. That'll be 4. There, and then again over here. And broad beans are one of the crops we can get in the ground in my area, not necessarily your area, depending where you live, but we can get them in the ground at this time of year. One of the earlier crops. I'll get another row, get another 2 rows in there. And I did this sort of spacing last year and it worked quite well. I've got 1 left that I'll put in there, and then 3 more of a new packet. And these ones are Masterpiece Green Long Pod. So, different variety. That's those. I'll just cover them over. Keep my eye on them. Broad beans are pretty cold tolerant, but obviously it's going to get really cold and they've come up out of the ground. I'll probably just come out and put a bit of fleece over them. And when you use fleece, it does help the plants, but if the leaves of the plant are touching the fleece and it drops to freezing, you can still damage the leaves of the plant. If they're not touching, then they'll be protected a lot more. But certainly things like potatoes, if they're touching the fleece, then they'll still freeze, they'll still go black and die. The actual plant itself will probably be okay, but those particular leaves will have had it. So I'll turn the camera and we'll do the bed next to this one and get a few more of these put in. Don't know why we find so much plastic, it just rubbish. And again, I'll grow Monge 2 up that area. Which are coming on in the greenhouse, if you saw the video the other day. So again, staying away from the Monge 2 a little bit. Put 4 across. And about the same. Just make sure they go down 2 inches ish and they don't get stuck halfway down the hole. You want them to spend a bit of time getting up. And a lot of people start broad beans in pots, but I try not to, because the root, the first thing they do is put out a massive taproot. Well, it's not a taproot, it's just a really big root. And then it curls up in the bottom of the pot. And that's not really what the plant wants to do. It wants to put its root straight down. And because they're cold tolerant, I tend to just plant them out February, March. And then again towards the end of the season you can grow them in the cooler months, so they're a good crop. And we just add them to roast dinners, stews, pretty much everything really. And yeah, dead easy to grow. Suffer from black fly, but that's not such a big deal. You can just use your fingers and wipe them off, squish them, or you can just spray them with some water and knock them off. I never really go overboard trying to get rid of them. So there we go. I'll just give it a cover over now. First sowings direct in the ground this year. And like I say, if need be, I'll protect them with some fleece as and when. But at the moment it is really quite warm for the time of year. I mean, it must be low to mid teens today, Celsius. Just very wet. Everything is very wet, and you certainly couldn't be digging the beds or anything at the moment. And I think we might end up with quite a wet, warm, wet summer, to be honest. I think it's just the way I feel about it. I could be completely wrong. I have no scientific evidence to base that on. It's just a hunch, but we'll see. Right, so we've got Jerusalem artichokes in, and we've got broad beans in. So thanks very much for watching, guys. Hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, please give it a thumbs up, and if you like this sort of content and you want to see more, then please subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next one. Cheers.